Mixed Media Movies.
And welcome back to Mixed Media. We're doing our live show right now, so if you want to check us out, I was going to give you a time. I think this will be a time that we stick with as of now. But the best way to figure out what time we're going to be live every week is to either subscribe, whether you're on Rumble or YouTube, you should get a notification. I guess I'm supposed to tell you to hit the notification bell as well. I've never done that for any YouTube channel, and I still get notifications, so I don't know. And
I think the bell makes sure that you get every notification. Otherwise, it's just personalized notifications.
That makes sense. So definitely hit that bell because you want to get every notification that we have to offer. If not that, then you can check us out on Discord. Go to mixedmediapodcast.com for all the links, or check out the links in the description as well. So we're here right now, Monday at 9:30 p.m. Eastern time, if that's what we decide to go forward with. That's what we're doing right now. So I get to react to some hot takes randomly selected from Reddit. Well, not randomly, not literally a roulette, but my co-hosts here have selected some links for me to check out. I have not seen any of them except for the one I picked for myself. All right, so here's the first one. So I found this one, didn't get much attention. This person didn't get much attention. And it's not so much of a hot take as much as it is just asking some really honest questions about indie filmmaking that I think I can answer. So hopefully appreciate that. Someone actually answering your questions. But this person's asking questions about independent production. And I know that's a confusing space to enter. And it's really, really, really difficult. So I'll just go down and give my best answer. So the first question is, are film festivals really as genuine as they look on paper? What are the chances of the unknown director getting selected? Are they really as genuine as, it depends what you mean by genuine, right? Like, I mean, are the artists genuine? Are the organizers genuine? And really, either way, it's going to be a big, it depends. It depends on the film festival. I mean, most filmmakers who submit to these things are probably genuine. The organizers, there are a lot of grifts, for lack of a better word, out there. So really be careful with how you spend your money. Spend your money at festivals, I would say, that you know what their track record is and that you're willing to go to, especially if it's your first film, you want to go to every festival that you get into for sure. It'll just be a cool experience, if anything else. There's a lot of Hollywood film festivals that you should absolutely avoid. Just because it's in Hollywood, you should not submit to it just because it says Hollywood on it and it takes place in Hollywood. There's a lot of grifting happening out of LA for filmmaker dollars. So and these events are basically no one pays attention to, and there will be no one at. So don't spend your money on those for sure. And yeah, I mean, I don't want to get into the higher level of Hollywood and all that, but yeah, there's a lot of like two-facing, but that happens with all business endeavors. So I wouldn't sweat it. I would ask yourself first the question of why you're submitting to film festivals, and if your answer is to get found, don't do it. if your quest is to get discovered, that is not the right mentality. Do it because you want your film to be shown, potentially to make connections with other filmmakers or low-level producers and stuff like that. But if you're looking for like an easy ladder to success, I don't care if you made, if I saw it was the best film of all time, I would not bank on film festivals being the way you do it. Yeah, that's my opinion there. 2, what happens to my film if it performs poorly at film festivals? Nothing. That's the great part. Nothing happens to you. If you mean you don't get into film festivals, then you've wasted money, which is something, right? Like if you're don't drop $1,000 on entry fees and be sad because you didn't make it into any because they weren't realistic with your prospects. Really, there's this really hard thing with filmmaking where it's very hard to get outside opinions that are extremely honest, right? This is for any art, right? But you also have to want that too. You need both, right? You can't just just expect people to be hard with you, but you also have to desire that, because once you hear it, you can't unhear it. So go out and search for, good, honest opinions about what people think about your films, which is very difficult. If at best, or at worst, really be honest with yourself about the prospects you think that you have with the film. Always shoot your shot with some random big film festival. Just pick a random gigantic film festival, and just because it's cool, just submit one of them to one of them.
This is getting closer and closer to an analogy of video games and publishers, because it's sort of the same thing. Right? It's like worst case scenario, you just don't get in, right? Or best case scenario, you have the option, if you want to pursue your idea with whatever publisher, which is a pretty good best case scenario, depending on the publisher, I guess. And also just randomly shoot an email to one of the big publishers just to see what happens.
Yeah, exactly. Really work. I think one of the greatest things about film festivals, I think they're losing their utility very quickly, which is kind of sad. But one of the cool things about it is that you get to practice some of your pitching and business skills, which are going to be extremely important for you going forward. Putting together some marketing for your film and really trying to get some energy behind it is super important. Number 3, what are some selling options other than film festivals? Ooh, okay. So now I know where your head is at. Let me disabuse you of this idea of selling your film. I don't want to be a Debbie Downer, but I actually just want to be honest, because again, it's sometimes hard to hear the honest thing. You're probably not going to get your film sold. And I'm going to tell you why without even watching your film. Because one, short films, the bar of entry to create a short film has been the lowest ever, right? Which I think is actually a good thing, a net positive thing. I have a camera right now in front of me that's filming me as a webcam that is technically a photography camera, but I could totally shoot a commercial or short film with it. And that's how low the bar of entry has gotten, right? So you're going to be competing with a lot of people, and the practical reality is that these judges aren't going to watch everything. That's just the practical reality. So even if you have, a legendary film, maybe best short film of all time, I don't know, the chances that someone will see it and appreciate it for what it is after slogging through, 2,000 short films for their film festival is kind of low. And I'm talking about for film festivals that have markets. So this is something that not a lot of people understand because it's actually kind of confusing. So some film festivals have markets and some don't. What a market is where there are people going and looking to buy rights to things when they're there, right? So Sundance has a market, South by Southwest has a market, those kinds of festivals. So Tribeca has a market. You get what I'm saying. But what are all those names? Gigantic film festivals. So, so the first barrier to entry to get your film sold is to get into a gigantic film festival, which again, it's not that your film might be bad or may not be better than, many of the films at those film festivals. But one, those film festivals, in terms of genuineness, I'm going to say it goes a little bit down. There's a lot of people who get their films into those film festivals that take slots, right? Just being realistic. Not discouraging you from submitting to them, to just being realistic. And two, again, they're looking at thousands of submissions, and they might be half asleep and or drunk, depending on the judge that is watching your film. So let me disabuse the idea of selling your film. Now, if you ever get to a position where you're going to sell a short film, you're probably going to get screwed. What I mean by that is they're probably not going to hand you cash ever, even if you did have the best short film ever. They're probably going to promise you a slice that's probably ridiculous and domestic sales only, and it's probably not going to be exciting whatsoever. And so short films don't really sell like that. If it's a feature film, that's a much different conversation in terms of if you actually got to the point of selling, you might actually have something interesting on your hands. Maybe not in terms of money per se off the bat, but in terms of opportunities to launch your career further. So there's that. Number 4, should I spend my money on film school instead? So, sorry to all my people who went to film school. My answer is no. Don't go to film school. Well, okay, asterisk, very big asterisk. Go to film school if you need the connections. You know, okay, actually, let me caveat that even in a bigger way. If you are entrepreneurial and you're not scared of that, don't go to film school. Not because, you know, there are not good film schools out there, or you may not learn something, or all that kind of stuff. Just because that money that you spend acquiring that much debt could be spent on a lot more than what the return on investment is going to be at the particular film school. Asterisk, because if you get into, let's say, a big LA film school, you might meet someone. You might meet a whole group of people who you vibe with, who you start making films with, you know, going forward. But that's a very case-by-case basis. You really have to know yourself, which I think I've said on the show many, many times. One of the biggest things is really know yourself. Don't just follow a path because other people are taking it. Don't just listen to what I say because I said it. Know what your strengths are, because I'm going to come from a biased perspective of what my strengths are, right? So think about, okay, am I comfortable? Do I tolerate risk well? Am I responsible? You know, real answers, right? And if the answer is, yeah, I can tolerate the risk, I'm responsible, I'm entrepreneurial, I know how to deal with finance and money, don't go to school. Do your own thing. If your answer is, I really need creative support, and there's some things I probably could learn, especially like the nitty-gritty technical stuff. If you're not very nerdy about film naturally, it might be a good idea to learn those things in a class where you're kind of forced through the paces of the technical aspects of filmmaking and all that kind of stuff. There's a whole plethora of reasons why you might go to film school. But I think if avoidable, avoid it and take the time. That's my personal opinion, at least.
I would add to, not that I have like truly direct personal experience, but from going to a school that has a, you know, pretty big film program in LA, I will say that these programs, and the ones in LA especially, are probably very difficult to get into and are hyper competitive. Even though my school is not like the biggest one, you know, everyone is I think they literally, like, if you don't, you know, like, kick you out of the program after your sophomore year if you're not like good enough. And everyone out here, they all want the same thing, and they all want the same industry connections. So keep that in mind if you're going for somewhere in LA too.
Yeah, that's a very good point for sure. Yeah. So I know this all sounds very negative, but it really isn't, I promise. Go check out some of our other episodes about filmmaking. I think there's more positive stuff to say about striking it out on your own. I think the last thing here is how much money should I keep in my wallet for marketing my film? Well, so the industry standard is the same as your budget, but it's not going to work out that way for you, I'm assuming, because your budget's probably really tiny. So normally in the industry, it's literally take your film budget and multiply it by 2, and that's your total budget, and half of that is marketing. But what that should tell you is how important marketing is. I won't go into the super details because I actually just do this every day. This is mostly what I do business-wise with my own business. Actually, so you can email me, irving@ariella.co, or you can I don't know, find me. You'll find some way to find me. Email mixedmediapodcast@outlook.com. This is not a sales pitch. I'm not going to charge you for anything. But if you just want to like talk to me over the phone over your particular circumstance, I would actually just love to have that conversation regardless of anything. I highly doubt you could be a client anyway. So that's not the bias. It's just, you know, I would love to have a conversation with anyone. And yes, so take some money aside. I would say, you know, minimum 10% of whatever your budget is has got to be marketing. That's the bare minimum. And if you're going to do 10%, then you really have to be willing to put in the grease and the elbow work to do everything by hand, you know, like get people hyped by hand, like all the things, and really spend your time learning before you put that film out. If you're not even in production yet, take that time to learn some marketing stuff before you go ahead. So that would be my advice. And again, all that sounded super negative. But I still think this is a great time to strike it out as an artist. Sans recession, that's about to happen. But besides that, otherwise, it would have been a pretty great situation to strike yourself out. So, and maybe school is better for you because of the economic situation as a whole. I don't know. Can't answer that question for you. So there we go. Let's see. This one is from Ben. All right. So let's see. Can someone please explain Blade Runner? And then mini essay. Do you want to describe for me?
Sure. So I will give the caveat that I have never seen this film, so I'm not really the most knowledgeable about what exactly this person's saying. I know that person kind of gets torn apart in the comments. So the person says basically they don't like Ford's narration. And it doesn't fit with the film, in their opinion. They're really confused about what exactly is the replicants are, and they don't understand why the replicants, everything about them isn't explained. The person doesn't understand what exactly the replicants want and what their motivation is in the film. And I feel like that any explanation they got took place too late in the film for it to matter. And they finish with, for all those reasons, I felt it was a mess of a film with no directions, which is surprising given Ridley Scott's Alien was only 3 years prior to that. And they also say they don't understand how those two, I don't know who those two are in love by the end because they barely even knew each other. And the person asks, if someone who is a Blade Runner fan can explain why this film is a good film, because to them, they feel like it's a mess of a film.
Right. So that's an interesting opinion. I haven't seen Blade Runner in quite a while, but these are very general questions because I was afraid that I was going to have to explain the exact plot, but these are very broad questions that you're asking here. So I was just reading also some of the replies, which are interesting. But it depends on okay. I have an episode, it's called Why Art Class Failed You. Before I sound pretentious, go ahead and check that out so that you don't think I'm like a crazy person or anything like that. But, and also a caveat, this is actually, I'm not a big fan of this film. I don't really understand why. I think it has a wide cultural significance, but I wasn't personally super impressed by the film. I almost expect to be more impressed by Blade Runner 2049 when I finally plop it into my Blu-ray player when I watch it than I was Blade Runner. That being said, I think it's a respectable film. It's not like I hate the film or anything like that. So just saying, I'm not biased when I tell you this or anything like that. I don't really have any attachment to this film. But I think what it is that you might not be used to ingesting films that rely on what I call, at least, information starvation as its means of tension, right? So you not knowing something as its means of tension. And so I know there's a lot of think about it this way, expectation is often used as a tool in a lot of arts. So what do you expect to see versus what you do see, right? So in film, especially because it has a time, films take place over time, there's a lot of information starvation that happens playing with your expectations. But if you're expecting a movie to be good, has X quality, easily intelligible, right, then you may off the bat be confused or not feeling good about the film, or you feel like something's missing or something like that, just depending on the films that you're used to watching and used to liking, right? Because there are films that are extremely easily intelligible, and actually that's a strong suit for them because that's their style of storytelling. So Blade Runner definitely doesn't fall into that category. It's not a straightforward story in the sense that everything's not presented, the audience isn't presented with information that the characters don't have, right? So as the main character is starved for information, so are you, right? And so you're kind of going through the mystery with him. So take it from that angle and maybe watch it again and say, what do I know now that I've watched the entire film that I didn't know before that might be coloring this different, and why is that contrast happening, right? And then, I don't know, just give it another shot. I'm not saying you'll like the movie because, again, I think it's kind of an okay film. It's got huge cultural significance, but I'm not personally terribly attracted to the film. But just maybe it's a good exercise though, right? And say, okay, I'm not used to watching a film where there's not a lot going on in terms of the audience being exposed to the information of the world, and go back and maybe see, okay, does that force me to pay attention to a lot of little details, little subtleties, and not just subtleties in what you see or what people are saying, but even in facial expressions, right? Because that can be some of the magical qualities of this kind of storytelling, is, forcing you to lean in and really pay attention to everything, so that you can get it, right? Yeah, so I'm not going to explain it to you. that's my short answer. Nathan's next. So this one says, I hope the next Superman movie takes a little inspiration from One Punch Man. Do not downplay his powers and make a fun, entertaining story around him. That's that's a really funny idea. So for those who don't know, One Punch Man is a satirical anime, satirical about mostly shoguns, anime shoguns, and all their respective tropes. And the funny thing about this suggestion is that One Punch Man is a Superman of sorts. I mean, he's invincible, and he can pretty much kill anything with a punch. Except he just doesn't even have a kryptonite, as far as we know, at least. As far as we know, he doesn't have a kryptonite. And so I guess, it depends on what your expectations are for Superman. So, I'm not a Superman expert or anything like that. I'm not particularly attracted to the character of Superman either. So, there's that. But what I understand from DC fans is that what they like about Superman, in fact, what they like about most DC heroes in general, is they like their core moral good, right? So they like the fact that, unlike, let's say, Marvel characters, these characters fight for these higher ideals of good that are of sort of a higher echelon than the villain of the day, but these more abstract virtues, and that they stay basically good even if they mess up here or there. So that's what DC comic fans like about their heroes, and Superman is kind of like the epitome of that, right? Like, he's just basically good, right, throughout his character development, even though he may mess up here or there. He's a basically good guy. Marvel characters are kind of these flawed creatures that need to change in order to arise to their role, right? So there's these two sort of archetypal things happening on both sides of the spectrum that are equally archetypical in terms of storytelling that you could sort of come at these characters at. For Superman, it's a real big extreme because he's really basically good. Like, Batman has like really low lows in his in his various renditions, whereas Superman, it's definitely a good TM sort of person, and so that's not everyone's flavor, and I don't know if it's my flavor or not. I haven't really explored Superman enough to know, but I can understand how you can say the melodrama of Superman paired with his good TM nature might be a little bit boring for you or something like that. And so, yeah, I can see where you're coming from in terms of wanting to change the style. Now, would that be faithful to do a One Punch Man style of Superman? No, it wouldn't be, and I think everyone would be mad as hell. So, would I tolerate that? I mean, I have no personal attachment. If he did it well, I think it could be hilarious as a satire, but as like not a satire, but as a tone, I think that might be a little bit weird and may not fit the character very well. But that's my opinion on this weird take. Cool. Anything else to say about that?
No, not really. I think I agree there.
Cool. So that's Arguing with Reddit. If you disagree with any of the hot takes that I just gave, anything at all, whether it's the advice I gave, Hashtag not financial advice, if anything that could have been construed as financial advice. But if you disagree with any of the advice I gave or any of the opinions I gave, just let us know in the comments or join our Discord, which is rla.co/mixedmedia/discord. Links in the description, or go to mixedmediapodcast.com to get all your links. So there's that.
Y'all think too small, I got big dreams. You just starting, I'm way ahead at the end scenes. Started reading and dodging all of the quick schemes. Money like your Spotify, boy, I got 10 streams. And I'm still looking for more. My people, they got a soar, I'm putting that on the Lord. Ain't accepting, ignore, just kicking down all the doors. Guarantee you, boy, if I ask for it, it's gotta be real big. I gotta make it just for my kids and for their kids' kids. That's wealth years and years.